So Terry, I can't believe it. First season of the Train Design podcast is done and dusted. That went by in a flash.
It did, yeah. It seems like a very short time ago we were discussing it as an idea, and now we've got 8 episodes out there in the world getting listened to. Yeah, it's great.
I know. It's really strange, isn't it? But yeah, it's gone by so quickly. Like you said, it was just a concept, and then, it feels like you're working on it forever, but before you know it, it's all out there. So it's really, really exciting, and and it's great to know that it's out there and people are listening to it. And I think you've been looking into that a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. It's really interesting looking into some of the stats that our system gives us on who's been listening, things like that. We've got people. I never expected anyone in Myanmar or Singapore or Kenya to be tuning in, but they are.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and people using all kinds of services as well as Spotify and Apple, some of the other ones that were on, like Google Podcasts and Anchor and Breaker. So yeah, really good to hear that it's getting out there. Lots of different people. We've got some stats on which episodes have been popular as well, which is interesting. So Curation, our first episode, was our most popular. It was the first episode, so there's the kind of maybe new podcast bounce or whatever you might call it. But also the PowerPoint one, really, really popular.
Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise to me, to be totally honest with you. out of all the things that we covered, it's I don't know. It's just goes to show, doesn't it? You never know what people are truly interested in until you put stuff out there.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe it seemed a bit everyday and not necessarily the most exciting thing to talk about, but maybe its everydayness is really kind of makes it connect into more people. Everybody has some stake in PowerPoint or getting rid of PowerPoint.
Yeah, very accessible, I suppose. It's something that we can all identify with, as you say, whereas some of the other topics, such as the technology and the gamification, may be of interest to people, but it may not be something that they can immediately identify as being something that is applicable to them. I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think the storytelling one's it's early days yet because it's been out kind of only just less than a week.
A few days, yeah.
But it's already kind of surpassing some of the older episodes in terms of number of listens. So we'll have to watch that space on that one.
Yeah, it should be. It is a good listen, that one, isn't it? And I know it's something that you really, really enjoyed researching. That one in particular, it was very easy for me, that episode. I could just sit back and listen to you. As I did on so many, to be totally honest.
No. There's some great questions from both of us, and we both took our share. But we got loads of great feedback as well, didn't we?
We did actually, which is so pleasing, because when you put something new out there, obviously you've got no idea, one, if anyone's going to pay attention to it, and two, what the reaction's going to be, because the podcast is a growing medium, and there are quite a few L&D podcasts out there, so you've kind of got to just put your content out there and hope that somebody somewhere likes it.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, I've been getting loads of comments like that on LinkedIn and on the Facebook page, and people talking to me when I met them as in some of the communities like the Trainer Talk community. I bumped into one of our listeners, Simon Linnard. Hi, Simon.
Yeah.
At Learning Technologies. Just bumped into him in the middle of the hall, and one of the first things he said to me is, "I've been loving your podcast. It's making my commute so much better." It's really good to hear.
Yeah, it is nice. I've had just a few specific comments, for like say for people on LinkedIn and people in the Training Designers Club, really loving the fact that it's not too long. And in fact, one of my VIP members did ask me if I could possibly squeeze it into 20 minutes because that's as long as she had. I went, no, not really. But the fact that it's very practically focused rather than theoretical, because I think there's quite a lot of stuff out there that is very theoretical, isn't it? And very aspirational, I suppose. Not that our stuff isn't aspirational, but we like to think it's, we're both practitioners. We earn our living by designing training. So that's very much who we're aiming it at, isn't it? It's about, sharing our practical expertise and just giving people ideas so that, it does feel like it's something that they can apply.
Yeah,
and I think that's important.
Yeah, and some of the feedback said that, particularly on the curation one. Again, people have said that that's really helped me to put some systems around how I curate things and get new sources to curate things from and things like that.
And maybe that's why the PowerPoint one was so popular as well, because we weren't saying you should never use PowerPoint, which I think, there's a lot of people out there who sort of poo-poo it. We were able to sort of say, look, it has its uses, it has its place, but if you're thinking of moving away from it, here are some of the things that you can try. So I think, just people feeling, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong here, but I do want to stretch and I do want to experiment, but I've got limited time. So just that guidance, I think, can be really helpful sometimes.
Yeah, sure, definitely. And how did you find the whole experience, Sharon?
Well, I have to say, Terry, I've loved it. I've absolutely loved it. Mostly because I've learned so much from you. So it's I learn by doing. So whereas you're the bookworm, so you do all the research for me, and I just come along with a whole load of questions and a genuine interest. And I learned so much just from doing that. So it's been thoroughly enjoyable for me. And how about you?
For me as well, absolutely. And you've brought a lot of stuff to the table as well. The transfer of learning in particular was really interesting for me to kind of learn a little bit more about the particular tool and that you talked about there and how we can put it into action. But yeah, actually, I've enjoyed, as well as our interaction, which I think has been really enjoyable. It feels like I've got to know you even better as we've worked together. But also that research bit has been really interesting for me. Getting my focus really down for each episode, thinking, right, I've got to be as knowledgeable and have everything at my fingertips as I can about this topic ready for when we record. It's been really enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think that different approach to how we learn is like you said, you do all the in-depth stuff beforehand, so you've got all that information so you can talk about it, whereas I will ask some questions and then I will go and research the bits that in more detail that have piqued my interest.
Sure.
So it's quite interesting with those two different approaches, I think, sometimes. So I've definitely picked stuff up, and there's also things that I am going to investigate further as a result. So yeah, it's been a really enjoyable process, and so much so that we are actually planning season 2, aren't we?
We are, yeah, absolutely, yeah. 8 episodes in season 1, probably 8 in season 2, coming in a month or 2, probably.
Yeah. So sometime in April, we think that's going to be. So it'd be really interesting. Have you had any requests yet for topics for season 2?
Not specifically, although I think there's been a few discussions that I think have kind of seemed like people are showing an interest, particularly, for instance, in the Training Designers Club. I remember there's been a lot of talk about design thinking. So I think design thinking, and
that's so up your street.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm really getting into that at the moment, actually, as I'm designing a few products as part of my business. So yeah, maybe that or something contrasting it with ADDIE or more traditional kind of end-to-end approaches might be really useful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things that have been requested via the Training Designers Club and to me personally, and one is structuring training. And it's interesting because the design thinking is more the whole concept of it, whereas what I'm used to doing perhaps is the end-to-end, the linear approach. So we'll definitely be doing something on that because it just helps people, particularly if they've never really designed training before. What we tend to find, particularly in the Training Designers Club, we have people who facilitate training. Often they haven't delivered it, they haven't designed it. So it just magically happens, and through their great facilitation skills, that they get great results. And also coaches who move into training as well don't really know how to go about that. So that is something that I will be wanting to cover. I don't know if we're going to cover this. I don't know if it's appropriate for a podcast, but I've also been asked about designing training materials. And maybe that's a little bit on the back of the PowerPoint one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that could work. The other ones that
I feel like that's a visual thing, though.
Yeah, but I think that's fine. You can still talk about it and give resources for it, and yeah, I think so. The other two that I'm really interested in, and I think we've got starting to line up some collaborators for it, so maybe you can get some guests on for the first time, around accessibility and designing in a way that's accessible, and also using actors and designing sessions that are going to use actors. So
yeah,
it could be really interesting.
That would definitely be interesting, because it's something I've flirted with numerous times over the years, but I've never actually managed to land a project that uses actors for various reasons. So that would definitely be something of interest.
Yeah, no,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I've used some actors on a number of training sessions and been really, really powerful, really impactful. Yeah.
So it's yeah, I'll be looking forward to learning on that one. The other thing that I do want to talk about, because it's an area of passion for me, is designing case studies. So I think I would like to discuss how we use case studies and how to design case studies and the different types of case studies, because I think they're a really powerful learning aid as well. So definitely going to do something on that if we have time in season 2, which we should do.
Yeah, good stuff. Sounds like there's a lot of stuff for us to be getting on with in our little break.
Yeah, definitely. And we need to coordinate diaries a little bit as well, what with one thing and another. But yeah, so I think definitely finding time in April so we can start launching then. And of course, it gives people a chance to catch up with all the episodes that they've missed in the meantime.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you're listening to this, you know, and any of the topics that we've covered so far, curation, PowerPoint, technology, transfer of learning, designing for facilitators, gamification, remote workers, storytelling, if any of those sound interesting and you haven't listened to the episodes, they're all sitting there.
Yeah. Just actually, Terry, which was your favourite one, would you say, out of all the ones that we've recorded, or favourite 2?
I thought it would be gamification, and I did really enjoy that one. But actually, I really, really enjoyed how well I think the storytelling one came out. I'm really, really proud of that one. And I really enjoyed our conversations that we got to on that, and some of the different sources we managed to bring in and make them relate to the topic.
I mean, storytelling is something that you've been using for a long, long time, isn't it? I mean, you're a big advocate of storytelling, so very much one of your favourite topics, I suppose.
Absolutely.
I really enjoyed the gamification one, which you led, because I didn't realise that I was using quite a lot of gamification techniques. I just didn't know that they were specific techniques, because that's the way I approach training. I'm very much, this seems like an engaging and useful way to do learning. So that was really interesting to learn that I perhaps wasn't quite as far behind the curve as I might have thought I was, but also giving me some ideas to take the next step. And I think maybe from in terms of the perhaps more practical side of things, I think just discussing how we deliver training or how we design training for remote workers. I don't think we came to any conclusions on that particularly, but it was a really useful discussion about all the things that we do have to take into account when you don't have people physically in the same room.
Yeah. I think it's good to ask questions as well as make conclusions.
So hopefully we'll have a similar mix in season 2 of enlightening people and posing questions.
I think we can do that.
Cool. So we need to go off and start preparing now and start researching and planning and organising our diaries. Yep, and
you know, our listeners hopefully need to keep listening, but also communicate with us if there's anything at all that you've listened to this and thought, oh, what I'd like to see in season 2 is this, or how I'd like to see season 2 done a tiny bit differently is this. Then let us know, and you know, we'll try and take that on board.
Yeah, and ideas for topics as well, because it would be great to have a challenge maybe a couple of times each season with something that neither of us have thought about, that we can look into and hopefully find some interesting stuff to share with you all.
Fantastic. All right, thanks, Sheridan.
Okay, well, that's lovely. So we will be back with season 2 sometime in April.
We will. Cheers.
Okay, bye now.